Ooh, it's cold this morning. It's 1 degree, but it's still beautiful. Look at that out there. Isn't that just gorgeous? And I've just got a little nose here nudging me for a bit of attention. Good morning, everyone. It's day 9 of my 30-day watercolor challenge. And here I am on a freezing cold morning out in the paddock so you can actually see how lovely it is. Just getting ready to go and edit the footage for today's video, and I decided to do some florals as I promised myself because it just felt like having a nice rest, and sometimes, you know, I just want to do florals. So the painting that you're about to see, I will give you a preview of. It's this one here, which is a very loose work with a use of negative space. Initially I was going to fill it all in and all that jazz, but changed my mind because the colour just sort of popped off the paper, and I thought I'll leave it alone. This sort of work is really easy to do, and all you need is a little bit of a sense of composition and aesthetic. And the basic rules of composition are pretty easy to find on the internet. You know, it's just about the way you balance a painting, the weight here or the weight there, or the emphasis in some area. And colour is something you just, well, there are rules on colour, but you can experiment with it. There was a point in the painting where I was about to just throw this great big bright red rose into it, and I realised that it was just going to throw the whole thing off. So you'll see that point. The next 2 days will also be florals because I've just got to get it out of my system, and then after that we'll move on to whatever else is next. Of course, my deck of cards is growing and I can barely hold on to them all at the moment, but it's really working out. This is a good way to get yourself motivated. I thought for a minute that I was overwhelming the algorithm and it was getting scared, but apparently that's not the case. So the sun's just coming up over in the east, so I'm going to go for a little walk around and see what the sheep are up to, as usual. Let's get on with the video. Howdy folks, Helen Norton here, and today is day 9 of my 30-day watercolour challenge, and as promised I want to do some flowers today. I've got a few things here I did a long time ago where I was creating a note paper for me to publish and to sell online, and the idea was to just have a bit of a design on one side like this and leave the rest for writing. So I've had these stacked away. These were a couple of attempts at doing that. That's on a very heavy paper, and that was just on a medium size. And that was just a little watercolour vase that I did at some point. So I thought today we would work with a really nice loose rendition of some flowers instead of the tight compositions we've been working on. So I'm going to use these as a reminder of the looseness of how we can go about this. Just looking at this more structured vase, or loose structure, in these pictures I did actually use some pencils and other implements to create some detail. Perhaps today I'll just make a generic vase shape and then just throw some flowers in, and then we'll come in, unlike the other paintings where we've created the background first, we could do that too and make a stunning painting, but we might just make one of these really loose, colour it in afterwards, you know, where I've taken the wash in after. I'll start by just giving myself an outline of the vase, and perhaps I'll put the vase off to the side like this. It's a rough shape. I have it sort of cascading over like that. You can fill the paper right up if you like. That would be good enough for a start, and maybe we can give ourselves just a skeleton of an idea so we can set it up. So instead of drawing, this way you won't see any pencil lines later on. Just a bit of an idea. And I'm going to use pretend flowers. Some of them will be recognisable, some of them won't. Remembering the artist's invention. And they would come down into the vase like that. And perhaps we'll do something where we have a bit of a shadow to create some interest. It's going to be very hard to go around all those shapes, so we can actually do our background, put them in, or we can put the flowers in and go around very loosely. If you look at this one, that's exactly what I did. I actually did the flowers first and I came in with a wash and deliberately left it loose and lots of light around the actual bouquet. Now I'm going to start out with some deep reds, always lots of reds, and perhaps we'll have a big red flower. We don't want to interrupt that too much, but we'll have one there to balance it off, maybe a bit there. And this is just mapping out some ideas to start. Very dark pink. Put a little bit of orange in there to deepen it up. By putting in a darker shade of whatever you're doing, it just gives it a little bit of dimension. And perhaps a really light pink, which I'll make. Mixing a bit of, I've got some old white there, which is very crackly, so it might not work out so well. Let's have a look. I think I'm going to have to reload my pink. So far it's looking okay. I think always we need a bit of mauve, so I've got some dark purple here. Just clean off my very messy flap here, which is starting to look a little bit atrocious. I mean, all this paint I could reuse, but it's getting a bit out of hand, so we'll clean that one off. That will do. There we go, that gives me a bit of room. Now back into the purple. So if I start with a light purple, so instead of going dark first, I'll go light, and I might just drop in some nice fresh white, even though I can activate that. Very pale wash of mauve. It's not very pale, so just take some of that off. I just see it bleed sometimes, so if you want to avoid that, you could dry between your coats, but I actually don't mind a little bit of bleeding. I'm just sort of thinking about the rules of composition here, going off like that, and I thought, well, I've got a bit of mauve here. I'll throw that around the edge of the glass or vase, whatever it turns out to be. Maybe a bit of ultramarine blue on the shady side. It's a clear glass that will be lighter, but we'll just still put it in to give us some boundaries. Should do. Just picking up a bit of light and shadow. I think we need a little bit of light yellow, so I'll just move some yellow across here so I can lighten it up. Just grab some white and usually the flower, whatever it is, will be in a little mass somewhere if it's a sprig of something. You could have like little baby's breath here and there. It's almost enough base flowers, and what we need now is to dry it so we can get some green in. How about a few leaves? We can use different greens, some dark, some light. Thinking about where my leaves might fall. I don't particularly like that colour, but it'll do for now as we just get them down. Just get the forms in. Now, because we're going over, there'll be a bit of overlapping. But fear not, we can come back and reinforce things. What I'm just doing is I'm standing back and looking at the balance. I think we need something big in the green, so a few big shapes that really sort of lift up. You know, it's like you can have a little dotty thing, or you can have a couple of big strong leader shapes. Like that, there we go. It does feel like there needs more in there, but we'll come back with another green. I don't really like that green, so we'll take it down now. Make the greens more subtle, mostly. And of course they can be different coloured greens. This is a sap green, which we'll put, it looks the same, doesn't it? Sort of just putting a bit of a lead there. And now let's change it up a little bit. I've got this grotty old lime green here, which is all broken up and messy. Crummy, I should say. Let's see if we can bring that back a little bit. See what happens when we put a bit of that on there and see if it brightens it up. Not bad. That's better. I like that better. You can leave a bit of looseness in here. And of course you can have some very distant, inferior, just use the green very loose and very light to make a kind of a, you know, like a hint in the background of something like that, you see. I think the idea is that you keep your energy going out, so know the direction that everything's flying before you start. I kind of feel like this doesn't even need any background colour. I quite like the, you know, the bitty feeling of it, where it's just all separated rather than filling and closing the whole thing in. What do you think? Do you think it looks nice just like that? As usual, we always go too far, don't we? Why did I do that? I don't like that. I like that just with the white space. I'm just going to dry that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come in and carefully bring in some more opaque colour here, there and everywhere. But I've got to be careful because I don't really want to make things change too much. I like the very watery look of everything. Perhaps a more clear pink. If I use red, there's no red there, it's actually more a pinky colour. Red will make it bounce off, but it will change the whole tone. I've got some beautiful colours I haven't actually used hardly at all, which is quinacridone magenta. This is opera pink, that apparently is beautiful, and opera rose. Let's see what they come up like. Oh, look at that. Oh my goodness. Oh wow, okay, that's a beauty. Oh, what a colour. Woohoo, that's beautiful. We'll just stick with that one for now. Wowza. Need my brush to be very clean. It's like a special guest at a party, look. Wow. I wonder how it translates. It looks very luminous. Let's see if it actually works when it... Oh, look. Ooh, ooh-wee, that's very bright. Not too much, eh? Just a little bit. Wow. She's a queen, that one. We'll just put that there. Oh, that's just too much. Just need to knock her back a bit. She's gone too far. Just a really little touch of that stuff. That's very powerful pigment. So we could use a pencil here, or we could not. It's always the question, isn't it? Use a tiny brush or just leave it. Instead of a pencil where we can go drawy draw, which is really fun, let's be a little bit more loyal to the paint and see if we can get a nice line. A rigger would be good, like a little fine rigger. I just want some random things going on here. They sort of have to make sense, so they've got to come out of, let's see on that other camera, I've put this camera here today, so hopefully you can see when I get my big paw in the way. So we're still getting the same kind of effect as a pencil, it's just not as controlled, you see what I mean? The more I go, the less I want to actually colour the background in. We probably do need a few strands going into the vase if we're going to pretend that that's glass. Be careful here. Oops, there we go, too far. There we go. And that wouldn't be right, actually. It's got to come back a bit more into the vase. I think because that's the hero flower, we're probably going to have to put a little bit more detail into it. I'm not really happy with what we've just done, but we can fix that by actually going in and just going back into the gouache, the white gouache, this is the cakey stuff, so it's not going to be super strong, and maybe just fuzzing it out a bit. So just fuzzing it out. Just putting a bit of a wash over the top, and that will dry. And just sort of push that stuff back as if it's behind glass. So I'm just going to fix the hero flower, and then I'm going to add some little white details to those daisy things, and then a bit of shadow, and I reckon that will be all finished. Imagine this at the top of your letterhead. I'll be showing you how to do that afterwards, but let's just finish these paintings first. That will be another video. Using quite a dry brush because we need it to be super thick, and we're just going to be popping some little white hearts in there. See there, not too many. As if it was baby's breath. If you wanted to do baby's breath, you'd probably just use a little bit of, I'll show you, or I guess, you know, anything that's very, very fine. You don't need to draw it out. You just need to have a hint, like you could have like a little bit of like a blue, which would represent something in the shade like that. And then you would put some little dots inside it. But I think we've pretty much almost got enough detail at the moment. You might say, well, where's the stem for that? So you could, if you want to make things make a little bit of sense, you could throw in a few stems here and there, like that. But you don't actually have to see everything. I quite like that, just without any more detail. I think that opera rose is just way too much. I'm going to actually knock it back a little bit by using a bit of white, and I'll just go into the same colour, and oh gosh, that just made it even, I'll just show you, that made it even more bright. That's a big, powerful, strong colour. No, that's all right, that's knocked it back a little bit. We'll turn it to sort of a bit of a rose. There we go, that's better. They don't actually have to be recognisable flowers, but you can easily make them with a few suggestions or little hints. Now, if I wanted to sort of anchor that vase, we could just use a bit of mauve or something like that, and just say anchor it like this. Just a little shadow on the ground. Sort of put like some sort of landing in the background as if a very fine tabletop or something. And we can sharpen this up in a minute. We'll strengthen the shadow on this side. And I've made that quite strong, that blue, which you could have more subtle. And you wouldn't need any of this, to be honest. If you had, you're using it as a letterhead top, you could just have the vase on its own. But we'll just do that for a bit of a landing pad for the vase. And like I said before, if you had an inkling towards pencils, you know, you could draw little veins on the leaves and all sorts of things, which is something that some people really enjoy, and that bit of detail. It's also quite meditative, you know. I'll just show you what I mean so you can sort of see. So you could just use a pencil to draw in some little lines and things and wigglies, make it even more wiggly. I bet you can do it better than I can. You know me in detail, down the rabbit hole. Right, I reckon that's actually enough for that one. I quite like it just like it is. The only thing, oh, I know what it needs. It needs a brighter yellow somewhere. It just feels like, straight away I can see, it needs like a real pop of really bright yellow, like a whitish yellow, and it feels like it should be
So here, there we go, that's what it needed, a big yellow thing right there. Ah, that feels better. So it'll be a yellowy, whitey yellow thing, and I'll probably turn it into a rose of some sort. Sometimes you just have to go with what it feels like, not analysing. You could always, put a leaf, a fallen petal or something down here, which is always nice. That's all I want to do on that one. The idea is it's got no background. The idea that it does not have a background, we just use the lovely white paper because there's so much colour in that, and it's the space between that makes it sing. There's a part of me that really likes these little paintings, and I could live with them. They could hang on my wall and they would never disturb me. Okay guys, see ya. Thanks for joining me.